Good afternoon and welcome to One Police Plaza. Thank you for coming today. We called you here so we can update you on an officer-involved shooting that occurred this past Sunday. To open our briefing, the interim police commissioner of the City of New York, Thomas Donlon.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone. I'm joined here today by some of our executive staff and members of our Force Investigation Division. We want to provide the public an update on the Sunday officers who were involved in a shooting in the transit station in Brooklyn. We are in the early stages of our investigation, but we think it's important that we update all of you and want to provide you information that we know thus far. But let me first be clear. This is a tragedy for everyone involved. Everyone involved. And I want to extend my sincere sympathies to those who are injured. And this department understands how traumatic this situation is to all. We're concerned about all individuals involved in this situation. But we also know this incident happened. It happened because an individual decided to enter our subway system. He refused to drop that weapon after repeated orders by the officers. And then he advanced towards the officers while he was armed. As we always do, anytime there is a police officer discharge of a weapon, we conduct a full, impartial, and comprehensive investigation. For more details now, I'm turning it over to the Chief of Patrol, John Schell.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening. I just want to reiterate what the police commissioner's sentiments were. Just a tragic incident for everyone involved, and we wish everybody a speedy recovery, and our prayers with everybody. You know, we're human beings. We have families. Okay, this is a tragic situation, and our prayers go out to them. I also want to state some of the narratives that are being discussed for people who know better. A narrative that we shot somebody over a $2.90 fare, which is wrong and, quite frankly, irresponsible by those people. Before I take you through a two-part timeline, because this timeline is two parts of the events, I just have to share with you one statistic that, in context, speaks to this incident. Our last use of force report, we responded to over 170,000 calls for service as it relates to people in mental stress. And in less than 1% of those times did we have to use force. And even less than that did we have to use deadly physical force. That speaks to training, judgment, and the most restrained police department in this nation. Our officers try everything to de-escalate these situations, to help people in mental stress. But we are not perfect, and every situation is not the same. It is different. We now know that we had two interactions with Mr. Mickles that day about 10 minutes apart by the same police officers in the same station for the same offense of fare evasion. The first incident occurred approximately 10 to 3, where video shows Mr. Mickles jump the turnstile right in front of the two officers, at which time they followed him onto the staircase. They asked him to leave. They didn't use any enforcement other than to ask him to leave, and Mr. Mickles left voluntarily back through the turnstile he just jumped. But I must add, for some reason, when he left the station house, he took that knife out and opened the blade as he was exiting the station house. Our cops in this situation did what we asked them to do. They used discretion, they were on their post, and they did their job. The second incident initiates around 3:05 p.m. in 8 seconds. And in totality, this incident ends at 3:07 and 34 seconds. 2 minutes and 26 seconds. 2 minutes and 26 seconds of a complicated, fast-paced, stressful situation involving a person in mental distress, involving a person armed with a deadly weapon, involving an oncoming occupied train, involving an 8-foot wide platform, and in a moving train, like I stated, on an elevated platform. 2 minutes and 26 seconds. The following I'm going to describe to you is depicted on body-worn camera as I walk through the story. At 3:05 and 8 seconds, Mr. Mickles enters the train station a second time, and this time he doesn't jump the turnstile, he walks to the gate that was open, helping a woman. The officers quickly start to follow Mr. Mickles, and on body-worn camera, the officer states, "Be careful, he has a knife." I might add that on camera in the station house, that knife is in his right hand, folded in his train station. Thank you. The officers follow up to the platform, where they give numerous verbal commands to see his hands and drop the knife. These commands were issued over 30 times. At this point, besides the verbal commands, they realized the train was entering the station house and did not want to take any further action because of the platform and the train entering. The train arrives and the doors open as they're given commands, and they now enter the train. Both officers enter from different doors. As to triangulate or apex, the gentleman with the knife, still giving repeated commands. He refuses to drop the knife, and at this point, both officers discharged their tasers. The tasers did not immobilize Mr. Mickles. From this point, they exit the train onto the platform, and at this point, the knife now is open. The blade is exposed. This is an 8-inch knife. As depicted on body-worn camera, Mr. Mickles charged one of the officers and then turned around, and the other officer was standing there within approximately 5 feet. It was at this time they both discharged their weapons, striking Mr. Mickles. As this happens, they immediately go into life-saving measures by applying pressure to his wounds. But Officer Mays quickly realizes he's losing strength because he's also shot under the armpit. And thank God it did not hit any vital organs. He was handcuffed. As all the officers arrived, passengers alerted the other officers that we had other victims shot on the platform. Those victims were rendered aid and removed to area hospitals. This incident, like I stated earlier, happened in 2 minutes and 26 seconds. There were approximately 10 people on a train that during this, I failed to mention, the officers were trying to get those people on the train as they were dealing with Mr. Mickles. The situation is tragic, as we mentioned earlier, and our prayers go out to the families. This is fast-moving, fast-paced, and a stressful situation, and we did the best we could to protect our lives and the lives of people on that train. We will release the body-worn camera in the next couple of days to further be transparent in this incident. However, again, we must correct the narrative that is out there that we went to that train station and shot someone because they did not pay a $2.90 fare. That is just not true, irresponsible, and wrong. To date, Mr. Mickles is being charged by the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office as the following: attempted assault in the 1st degree, 1 count; criminal possession of a weapon, 4th degree; menacing, 2 counts; theft of service, 2 counts. Our hearts and prayers go out to everyone that's hurt in this tragic situation. And with that, I'll open up questions to anyone who might have.
All right, we're going to start off with Tony McComb. You had Tony McComb, ABC7?
So I'm going to talk to the body-worn camera piece of it, and I'll pass it to Chief Griffin as we got the knife back. On the body-worn camera, you'll clearly see Mr. Mickles with the knife extended, chasing the officer. You'll see it inside the train station exposed. And when he gets shot and goes down, an officer kicks a knife across the train. And when they were rendering aid, someone picked up that knife and walked off the platform. I'll give it to Chief Griffin and tell you how we recovered that knife.
Good evening. So speaking to the investigation, I'm Chief Rohan Griffith, Commanding Officer of the Force Investigation Division. As we initiated our investigation immediately after this charge took place, as Chief Sell said, it became apparent through the investigation that an unidentified male removed the knife from the scene. And that was because the officers at that time were tending to not only the individual that was struck, but also our officer. Now, armed with the knowledge that this knife is not present at the crime scene, we immediately commenced an investigation into the whereabouts of this individual and his identity, and also the location of the knife. In less than 48 hours, based upon our information that we put out, as well as our investigation, we were contacted as to the identity of this individual and his location. We met with that individual. We were able to obtain a statement that concurs that he was in fact seen and also did remove the knife, and we were able to recover the knife as a result of that. That knife is being processed by our crime scene unit and our police laboratory.
All right, we're gonna move over, Dean Moses, AM New York.
Two questions. One, there's been a lot of talk about tasers not working. I just want to ask about what that looks like. Does it not deploy? Does it doesn't work? Doesn't work? And secondly, in light of everything, I wonder if you guys are reconsidering your approach to fair evasion in general. If you just
Want to go into the fair
Yeah,
bit?
all right, so again, Dean, I'm going to stress this again. This incident was not about fare evasion. This incident was about a person in mental stress armed with a deadly weapon and protecting our cops and citizens on that train. I just want to be clear with that. I don't want this is not about fare evasion. And as I demonstrated in part one, they stopped him for fare evasion. They used great discretion and kindly asked him to remove himself from the station, and he did that voluntarily. Okay?
Thank you, Dean, for the question. I actually bought, these are training, Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry, Deputy Commissioner of Operations. These are training. This is what the officers, when they go to training, learn how to use a taser. This is what they use. So this is not a real live taser. But these were the two tasers that were deployed on this incident that we're talking about on Sunday in the 7-3 precinct. This is going to be our taser. This is our T7. This is a newer model. When you activate this taser, it automatically turns on every single body camera 50 feet from this taser through Bluetooth. This taser was deployed twice, right? If everybody could look at the floor, you see there's two prongs, right? Now, when you turn your hand, when you turn your wrist, they get smaller. The officer had, I'm not sure the exact feet, that's going to be part of the investigation, but he deployed this taser not once, but twice. And before he deploys the taser, it's important to note that he told the suspect to drop the knife. Both officers. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 38 times. 38 times he said to drop the weapon. They deployed the taser. That taser was ineffective. What I mean by ineffective, it didn't make contact with his body. I'm sorry, it did make contact with his body, but there are certain things that will make the taser ineffective. One, loose article of clothing. If he had like a loose baggy shirt, which he was wearing, it's not going to work. Very occasionally. This the probe when the connection. So if you look here, if I have this pointed to me, if the darts are really close, you can see here like the red and the green. If they're that close, that close to the muscle, is not going to work because it's only going to work in that particular area. And he did pull out the actual tasers. Not only did he pull out the prongs. Hold on a second, I got some more. Not only did he pull out the taser prongs, all right? These are the two things right here. Hold on 1 minute. He pulled these directly out of his body. He froze up and pulled them out. When I say ineffective, that's what that means. It was ineffective. Not once, not twice, but 3 times he pulled these out of his body. So we are working with Axon, and they are developing new technology that we're looking at where I'm not going to say the exact model of taser, but it's supposed to be a little more effective. These tasers, when they do deploy and they do make contact, on both prongs make contact with the body, it's 50,000 volts of electricity that goes through your body. But remember what he was wearing? He had a loose shirt on. He also had a book bag. We believe that one of the tasers, the prongs may have hit the book bag and then made contact with his actual body part. That's going to come out during the investigation. But before I close, I just want to say, my hearts and prayers are with the family from this incident, and it's extremely tragic. And when I briefed the commissioner that morning, this afternoon when it happened, immediately he asked, how were the victims and how were the officers? So my hearts and prayers go out to them. I actually spoke to Officer Mays today, and the bullet is still lodged in his body. And when I asked him how was he doing, you want to know what he said to me a little while ago was, how are the victims doing? How are the victims? Are they still going to make it? Can you please give me any information, because nobody's telling me on how the victims are doing. So that just goes to show you that where his head is at. And this is the same officer on body camera when he shot the suspect is shot. He says, "I'm shot in my arm." You see the blood protruding through his vest and through his shirt. And after the suspect is handcuffed, he then takes his own hands with no gloves on and applies pressure to the suspect's wounds while he's calling for an ambulance. And he kept that pressure on for about a good 4 or 5 minutes until he couldn't do it anymore because it was hurting him. So that just goes to show you the level our officers are, that he has, where he was still thinking about not only the suspect, and then when backup came, he immediately says, "Don't worry about me. Can we take care? I'm being told that there's other victims on the train that may have been shot." So he's directing resources to the other victims that are on the train. Thank you.
Arthur Chia, Fox?
Chief Cameron, earlier this year, your deputy chief testified to the FDA about how effective stopping terrorism was in getting illegal weapons out of the system. I think it was 44 total guns at that point. 24 of them were taken in NYPD custody at those stops, so more than half of them. Do you have updated numbers on how many guns you've been able to take out of the system because of stopping people at that point, and also do you have numbers possibly for knives or other weapons?
I do, yeah. So first of all, thank you for the question. So far, year to date, from January 1st up until this Sunday, there were a total of 46 firearms recovered from perpetrators in the New York City subway system. That's versus 35 last year. That's a 31.4% increase. Out of those 46 gun arrests, 24 of them came from a fare evasion stop. And that's versus 20 last year. So 24 gun arrests straight from fare evasion versus 20, or a 20% increase. As far as knives, just under 1,593 knives recovered in the subway system this year versus 1,032 last year. That's a 54.4% increase versus last year, just on the knives. And 490 of those knives were recovered from fare evaders. Thank you.
All right, we're going to do 2 or 3 more. Mark Santia?
You mentioned the body worn camera video may come out later this week. We've all done stories where officers rescue someone, and the body worn camera video comes out hours or a short time later to show what they did. Why in this case is it taken?
Yeah, so I'm Michael Gerber, Deputy Commissioner of Legal Matters. So we're working to get the video out very, very quickly. This matter is with the Brooklyn DA's office. We need to coordinate with them. We are doing that, and we will have it out within a matter of days.
Okay, Mac Rosenberg, 10 wins.
I guess for you, Chief, I mean, putting aside the narrative that this was about fare evasion, what do you say to people who think that this was unnecessarily escalated, that the officers maybe didn't need to take out their gun?
Well, this was necessary to help someone in mental stress who was armed with a deadly weapon. And they did everything they could between verbal instructions. They did everything they could with the tasers to de-escalate that. But when it comes to deadly physical force that can hurt us or kill us and civilians, we have to sometimes use deadly physical force.
Rocco?
Chief, you watch the body worn cam video. At the moment when the shots are fired at the suspect, is he still moving toward the officers?
After he ran towards one of the officers with the knife out and stopped, when he immediately turned around, the other officer was standing right there, approximately 5 feet away, and that's why they discharged their firearms.
It's your assessor, at least preliminarily, that it's within guidelines?
Absolutely, they did the best they could under the circumstance, and let me reiterate, the platform was 8 feet wide.
Just to follow
I keep on gonna. Years ago, 8 feet wide, and now we're talking a distance of 5 feet between a person with a deadly knife that can kill you and one of our police officers.
And it was the same officers who escorted them out earlier?
Correct. Same officers, same train station, same fare evasion, approximately 10 minutes apart.
Was there an attempt to try to get the knife from them then, or they didn't quite see him?
They did not, to our best of our knowledge, they did not see the knife, nor did they know he had a knife. And I would say the interaction, from what I'm told, was simply, you have to leave the station. He left voluntarily, and he actually left on his own. We're not following him out. But what we can't explain is why, when he was leaving, going through the same turnstile he jumped, for some reason he unfolded that knife. We don't have an explanation for that.
That's on video that you saw, but they didn't see.
Correct.
All right, we're gonna move on. Jake, final question?
Rocco asked my question.
Okay, John
I'll
Doyle?
say, Chief, there's been reporting or rumors about your retirement.
All right, we're gonna move on. John Doyle?
Not the appropriate time for that kind of question. We're here sympathizing. It's not fun. It's really not funny. We're here in a tragic situation, sympathizing with people got hurt, and probably not the proper venue for that question.
All right, John Doyle, final question?
Just regarding the knife, the man who took the knife, who was put on video, who you were looking for, who took the knife, was he arrested, and did he give an explanation why he took the knife from the crime scene?
In regards to the individual that took the knife, he was temporarily in custody. It was our determination that he would be released from custody, and he did provide information as to why he picked it up. But the specific statement that was made, I don't think is appropriate at this forum. What was that?
Can you summarize why he did it without giving specifics why?
I don't believe that he knew the individual. I believe that he just wanted to remove the knife.
Just one more.
We're just gonna conclude with a statement. from
I'm just gonna I forgot to mention one more thing, that there was 15 cameras at that station, and there was also cameras on the train that captured the whole incident as well. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Thank you.
Those two